had 7 foxes living in my yard during the month of April. So I apologize that we are not getting this interview recorded sooner, but April is also Autism Awareness Month. This is such an important topic when it comes to Disney World, when it comes to any family vacation. So, Des, let's start with you. Would you like to introduce yourself to everyone? Tell us a little bit about your family travel planning background, and then Dawn will get to you.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Des. I run Magic by Design, and I'm part of an amazing agency called Purple Banana Travel. My history with travel really started as the absolute gift that I will forever be thankful for to my own parents, which was to get the opportunity to grow up a Disney kid. I got to visit Disney parks as a child. As I became an adult, that love for Disney never stopped, and the love for whimsy didn't go away. And when I became a mother, I think it increased tenfold, because then it was about how do I get back for her to experience those first, for her to feel that same whimsy that I'm in my 30s now and I'm still feeling. Why am I still crying at the parade? And I still cry every time I hug Mickey Mouse. And from there, I think just with my corporate background and the fact that I work in experiential design and in creating a lot of different experiences for people in general, I was like, there's a gift in here all together that I think puts it all into one little neat little package, which is called being a travel fairy. And it was kind of sealed over the top after I had a brief stint as a princess character performer for a couple of years. I know, it's like the shocking, if we put it in a bingo card, no one would know. But
You were a princess character performer?
I was a princess character. I was really good friends with someone right behind me over here who has to believe in miracles.
You were Rapunzel?
She is.
My goodness.
Yeah. So
Oh
if this is
gosh.
enough of a hint to tell you who I portrayed, she's
Forget
also
the phrase travel planner. Travel fairy is my new favorite job
yes.
description. Can you tell us a little bit about your daughter as well and your relationship with her?
My beautiful daughter is 10 years old now. And so she's in that sweet spot now of like, she's still in the magic because she'll go out of her way to go see Mickey Mouse, but she maybe isn't as like into princess interactions, but she absolutely adores the parks. And I think what's been really interesting about seeing her experience it is that she has a lot of sensory needs and a lot of different kind of neurodivergences, myself included, because of my medical history and neurological history, that I think kind of have remapped the way that we experience Disney altogether. We've kind of landed on the fact that I think cruising is going to be the way that we can most safely experience Disney from this point forward. And then finally finding the sweet spot that I think covers everything that is safe for her to do in one place.
Let me introduce our second guest of honor here. This is Dawn. She is one of my college best friends. So Dawn, introduce yourself and tell us about your amazing daughter.
My daughter, Lily, is 5 years old. She is a bright, bubbly, sweet, very, very silly little girl, an autistic little girl who has lots of sensory challenges. We haven't done a whole lot of travel yet. We're kind of working up to doing bigger things at some point. We've done some beach trips, a trip to a lake, and we're actually planning a trip in the fall to like a more mountain trip in the Asheville area.
Let's start first with transportation. Des, do you have any tips for kids with sensory issues approaching a first flight?
So this is part of the plan that actually extends to the entire vacation, which is to actually create some visual mapping of what to expect. When we remove a lot of fear and we start to reduce the anxiety upfront, we build some predictability into the trip itself. And that starts to actually kind of set the pace for what the experience is going to be moving forward. I'm talking about things like, what is the seatbelt going to feel like? How long do you need to wear that seatbelt and you can't leave your seat and we're going to have to sit still? What is this light? What does that mean? Oh, that means that now we can stretch our legs and we're going to make the most of that time. Like we're going to actually purposely maybe pace the halls a little bit and get some of those sillies out. With my daughter, she has a lot of joint and hip kind of issues as well as part of scoliosis that she's had in the past. And so sitting for long periods of time, in addition to anything else that might be happening, will be a challenge. So knowing that there's a time limit to that sitting down, knowing that there is here's what to expect. When we take off, this might happen. When we come down, your ears might pop and that might hurt a little bit. And if so, here's what we're going to do ahead of time. Once that sign comes on and the announcement comes on that we're going to get ready for landing, we're going to take out a couple pieces of candy, right? You're going to start just like eating them, sucking on them, just to try to like avoid the drop. If that makes sense, just catch those things early. But Dawn, even with your travel experience with your daughter, I'd love to know if I'm missing the mark on something.
Those are all really, really good tips to keep when we kind of get to the point of doing plane travel. I usually have lots of like dollar store, Target little tchotchkes of things on hand that I can use as reinforcements or things to kind of motivate to do things that may be a little bit more anxiety ridden. Got to have our headphones, certainly be prepared for, we have a lot of
Yes.
sound sensitivity.
Is there anything like you do for a car ride to like prepare her?
I know a common saying is if you've met one child with autism, you've met exactly one child with autism, because it's just so individualized, each experience. And so, but with my daughter, I've kind of found that there's like the right balance of not wanting to tell her about something too soon and have her think about it and dwell on it and fixate, but giving her enough notice so that she has time to process as well. If we're going to go on a trip somewhere, I might start talking about it maybe a day or two before a little bit and prepare her for the idea.
Des, does your daughter have anything that she loves to bring on a plane to help with her sensory issues besides headphones? Any special toys, any special activities?
Yeah, my daughter's big. It's a big fidget girl for sure. She loves having some. For her, it's like squishy, like squishy slime or like a squish kind of toy where she's able to just kind of like massage it and knead. A lot of kneading is what I see
Yeah.
at her, not picking necessarily. I just find that just kind of like is a very soothing activity
Yeah.
for her in general. And the other thing is we actually have a rule for all of her travel because she has a comfort stuffy, as most kids do, that is the love of her life and has been with her since birth. And so when we started to travel with her, she was like, all right, he's coming, right? And I was like, if anything were to ever happen to this stuffed animal, we'll never get over it. And in building that like safety ahead of time, I said, well, actually, he has the most important job of all, which is to keep tabs on your room, like keep tabs on everything while we're gone. Like he who knows you better than him to know if something went sideways. So
Yes.
he has to stay back. But who would you like to send in his place that would be someone that can come on this trip with us? And so like every other stuffy was fair game. And so it became this really empowering thing for her where she would actually now pick someone different every time. Like who gets to come on this trip with us, and just immediately taking away something that would be super anxious and her feeling like she's the fairy godmother now.
Oh my gosh, that is such a great tip, because struggling with what to do with the favorite stuffy, I think, is a struggle all parents can relate. Des, you've clearly done Disney World. For a kid with sensory or other special needs, how is the process of waiting in line at Disney World? What are some tips to approach that?
Queues in general are always going to be a challenge for not just for kids with sensory needs or with neurodivergence, also for us adults with mobility needs or medical needs. You just see the wait time right at the start and you go, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
There's no way that we can do that. Now we're stressed out. And then that obviously is going to transfer over into our child as well, who's just really excited to get in there. It's part of the pre-planning side of it, where we can actually build like a visual map. Now my daughter, now that I'm a travel fairy, she actually becomes part of the planning process for other clients with me, because to her now it's part of the adventure of, yeah, they should start at Tomorrowland and go over here. And they absolutely, like, Dumbo never has a wait time on, and we know that we love to do Dumbo, right? Like she's starting to kind of become more familiar with what to expect. Also, that is where some of the disability access and accessibility services of Disney come into play. I think that the word DAS has been thrown around a lot.
DAS at Disney World, because I've never heard that acronym before.
So the Disney Disability and Accessibility Service of Disney falls under DAS. And this is a program that originally, when it started, was a little bit broader in how it would provide support to families looking to experience Disney, from ride entry accommodations, shows, and character accommodations, all the way into some of the ways that they were experiencing the resort. this was not just applicable for neurodivergence and for autism spectrum, but for mobility needs, every other disability, whether visible or invisible, as well as a lot of either unfortunately terminal illnesses or chronic
Mm.
illnesses, like very kind of like it was very broad.
Oh my goodness.
And unfortunately, as with most beautiful things in our world, people take advantage of that system. And so the main reason why this system became so flooded is that in an effort to protect your privacy, they cannot request any medical documentation to support or prove anything that you're saying. So you
Okay.
could book an appointment and say, my child has XYZ, or this is what we have going on, and I should go front of the line because this is our situation. And so as a result of that, Disney really had to pull back on how
Yeah.
broad and how all accessible and all inclusive of an application process this was, and tailor it down to strictly focusing for now on autism as a main kind of
Mhm.
niche. And it's really, really strict. I share this as someone who has multiple medical limitations that make it really difficult for me to experience Disney parks now. None of mine are eligible. Like,
Oh my goodness.
even with my own sensory components that can really spike neurologically, and I can lose my speech as a result of it. I can lose my vision as a result of it if I hit that threshold. None of those things are covered. And that's okay, because there's all these other tools that they've put in place so that you still have different options on how to experience Disney. So
Talk to
it's,
us about some of those other tools
yeah,
for accessibility at Disney.
if we're just talking about the queue, Disney has a service called Queue Reentry. And
Mhm.
so there's kind of two different ways that works. It's now ride and attraction specific instead of a blanket answer that one size fits all. You can walk up to a cast member and explain the situation, and they will be able to either do one of two things. One is a return to queue time, where they, based on the existing wait time of the ride, they will give you a time to come back. And now you're
Mhm.
going to enter the queue at that time through the lightning lane side, essentially, to be able to just have a much shorter wait time. It's still not front of the line access. I think it's
Mhm.
really important to understand that. But it's now a really direct way to kind of get in, where maybe you're now all in all line to ride under 10 minutes, where maybe you would have been up to an hour and a half, depending on what was happening in a
Right.
regular queue. The other option is queue reentry. And so what that happens, and that's my favorite, is everyone else in your party will line up just the same, but you and your child may be able to enter and exit the line as many times as you need to, and then simply meet up with your family when they reach the front of the line. At
Oh, that's
which point,
brilliant.
a cast member can help you enter through the exit of the ride, basically, just to try to kind of meet at that point. This is a really, really great option when you just need a little sensory break. You need
Yes.
to come out and sit. And there are guides that Disney has also created that are available on Disney's website as well, that have all of the sensory experiences that you are to expect from the entire parks themselves, so that you can also kind of predict what might happen.
Does Lily like Disney? And as a parent with a kid with autism, what's been holding you back from thinking about a Disney World trip?
There are a number of challenges. She is a kid who, with the sensory sensitivities that she has, it's sound, but it's also other. She is just prone to overstimulation. And I can imagine
Oh,
a place like Disney World or Disneyland or what have you. I mean, any really theme park right now, I think would be a lot for her.
okay.
It doesn't mean we won't get there. I'm
Yeah.
hoping we will be. She's seen Disney World through Blippi before, so
Oh my God.
that's her one, I think association with that, which is kind of funny.
The
And so,
Disney Blippy crossover for Autism
right.
Awareness Month. That's one I wasn't expecting. There you go.
And so I mean, I think in her mind she sees it and she's like, "Oh, I would like to go there." But I
Mm.
think were we actually to be there in front of one of these rides, she'd be like, "No ride, no do that."
Yeah.
So that's where we
Absolutely.
are.
Des, you mentioned that Disney Cruise may be a better vacation option than Disney World for kids with sensory needs. Why do you feel that way?
So, from just tried and true experience, what I have found about Disney Cruise Line is that this is a spot where you're never more than 5 minutes away from your room, for
Mm,
starters. So different than the parks, right? And the parks, if you want that midday break, you're planning for getting out of the park, getting back into transportation, getting back into your resort. How much time will all of that take? And then and then what time do you need to make it back to then continue on with the rest of your day? And more often than not, you'll just stay in the parks because the hour and a half it could take, unless you've planned for it. There's so many other things you're thinking about
Yeah.
that make it really hard for you to just take a beat and take a break and
Yeah.
do what your child needs in that moment, because you feel this fear of missing out, or you feel like you've made this really big investment and you've paid all this money to be here. And that's a valid thing to fear. I don't want to shame anybody for thinking that. I think it's a real consideration when you're kind of balancing how your child is doing in a moment and everything it took to get there, and this conflict feeling in between. But you'll never compromise their well-being
Right.
and their wellness, and you're going to make the decision that is needed. You're just also going to probably feel a little bit sad about it.
That makes sense.
On a Disney cruise, you don't need to worry about any of those things because everything is pre-planned out, and there is nothing that you can't do again,
Yes.
with very few exceptions, other than a port of call. Like maybe you're not going back to Cozumel another day, right? There will be a beach at some point
Yes.
else in the vacation. Royal gathering. It does not happen just once on the entire ship.
Right.
A Bibbidi Boutique appointment, right?
Yes.
Everything can move with very, very few exceptions. Like there's one pirate night,
Right.
one fireworks show. Other than that, everything else has a lot of flexibility. And so that alone buys you back a lot of confidence of, we didn't get to it today, but we're
Yeah.
going to get to it tomorrow, or we're going to get to it later today.
Does Disney Cruise have any special accommodations for kids with autism or sensory needs the way Disney World does?
From a Disney Cruise Line perspective, what I've noticed is there are a couple of areas within the ship itself that are kind of recommended as lower sensory points that children are able to explore. Obviously, headphones are kind of your best friend in situations
Mhm.
like this. And one of the things I work on with clients is we build predictability right up to the horn that is going to make a big, loud sound, to
Wow.
times where you're going to hear a lot of announcements and voiceovers happening, especially on de-embarkation day. Oh my Lord, sensory overload for me, let alone like
Yeah.
I can only imagine. It feels like a fire drill and
Right.
that morning, because it's like, if you're at 7:30, like it's time to go. If you're at
Yeah.
8 o'clock, it's time to go. On kids clubs specifically, there are counselors that will be able to also work with your child one-on-one if your child is on the spectrum, which is a really great tool to know about.
So I have to ask you about this
Yeah.
because it left a big impression on me on our Disney cruise. We just got back from our fourth Disney cruise last week and our second on the Disney Wish. One area where I think Disney Cruise is doing great for kids with sensory issues, and one where they really need to improve. The shows were fantastic for the kids with sensory issues. I saw a mother and son bonding. It brought tears to my eyes. Where Disney Cruise needs to do better for kids with sensory issues is that muster drill. Disney Cruise Line is one of the last cruise lines doing in-person muster drills. I saw a kid curled up in a ball, rocking with his hands over his ears when that crush of people were coming out of the muster drill. I don't know why Disney Cruise Line didn't get that family out of there sooner. Do you know about any special accommodations Disney Cruise Line is doing for the muster drill?
Glad that you bring this up, because this is one of the first conversations I have with parents that have that the fear of just travel with their kids in general, and we're planning for what to expect. That to me is one of the number one reasons to not book travel on your own. It's not that you
Mm,
can't. You absolutely
okay.
can. You're fully capable of doing everything. But those are one of those really important details that somebody could have given you a heads up about and helped you prepare for
Right.
ahead of, because we can make notes onto your account that Disney is able to like also make, so that it is understood ahead of time whether there are any sort of accessibility or dietary needs, but also so that on day one, as you get onto the ship, like your family's name is announced
Mhm.
and you waltz right over into guest services to make sure
Yeah.
that that conversation is had ahead of time, so that you reduce even the amount of time that you're
Mhm.
within the muster drill, to ahead of time preparing for that, and maybe also ensuring that you bring noise canceling headphones as a default. Like, don't
Okay.
even enter the muster drill without it. It's also one of the things that if you have the opportunity to have this conversation ahead with a client, you can go ahead and be like, and this is what that sound's going to look like. Here's YouTube
Yes.
videos with that. Play that sound at home. Like,
Yes.
slowly increase the volume on it at
Yeah.
home. Build
Yes.
that tolerance and that approximation for it, so that nothing comes out of a surprise. This is also why I do love the sunflower lanyard, with just becoming
I was
more
gonna
and
ask you about
more
that.
more and more recognized, especially within anyone that does have any of that training, to immediately identify you. It's not made by Disney Cruise Line, but that they'll just wear around their neck. That might be a fantastic tool to find something that feels stylish and fun to them, but that creates this nonverbal cue to
Yes.
all of the cast members and interactive components of it that allows them to know that maybe they need to approach your child in a different way.
That is so brilliant. That is one of the best tips I've ever heard. Dawn, can you tell me about what a sunflower lanyard is for kids with autism?
Yeah, and I actually wanted to ask you, Des, about this because so we've gotten a sunflower lanyard for our daughter. So we have it ready for when we're ready to take that step and go and do plane travel. From your experience or families that you work with, my understanding of it is this is just a lanyard. It has sunflowers on it. And I know that many, if I don't know that it's all or not, but many airports recognize that if you are wearing the lanyard, it is a symbol. It's a symbol that you have a hidden disability. It's a way for the staff to know and to be able to provide assistance, be there to help. And I'm curious as to what that actually looks like, how that plays out in terms of how helpful, useful families are finding that and what we would be able to expect, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that program is very much evolving thread right now. I would say that it's slowly becoming a little bit more mainstream. And so not all of the toolkits are in place just yet. And I do find that right now it's if you know, you know. And if you recognize it, you recognize it. I see it's a lot more prevalent in the UK, actually. Like Europe is
Interesting.
really adopting it a lot faster. And now it's kind of becoming more and more known. Yes, starting with airlines. The hope for us in the hospitality industry and in travel is that it's just going to become part of the standard of care,
Mhm.
whether it's a hidden or invisible disability or not. I think the goals is that it will change in the way that you navigate airports and your onboarding boarding experience alone. That in itself can make or break your vacation if it's a really detrimental experience to your trip.
Des, for Dawn, who was asking about the sunflower lanyard, how many airports have sensory friendly areas, a sensory space room?
It is definitely becoming more prevalent. And those rooms are great to be able to not just like if you're going to get your sillies out, that is the room to do it in, but also you need to be away from all of the 20,000 announcements that are also happening in an airport and the traffic and the bustle of people just like going in and out. It can be a lot. Not every place has them. As much as I know that in modern day, we all say that screen time is harmful. I think screen time and dollar store goodies and sensory fidget toys and the things. Pack your backpack. Like, this is your
Mm,
armor against anything else that you might experience. Have your snacks, have your hydration tools ready. Whatever it is that creates that regulation for your child is what is the right thing to do.
okay, so let me back up because I think what you said was really interesting. So, when it comes to travel and screen time, if your kid has autism or sensory issues, screen time is okay.
Yeah, I think you do what is right for your child. Not to mention that there are incredible tools within tablets that also allow them to be
Mhm.
so much stronger of a communicator too. And all
Ah.
of those things combined, I think actually are a resource more than a hindrance.
Okay, absolutely. Dawn, when you travel, does Lily use a tablet?
We had tried this once a long time ago. It didn't go anywhere, but then this time this really clicked for her, and it was of so much help, so regulating for her. And it was the PBS Games app. It's
Yes, yes.
terrific,
There you go.
so great. It gave her a way to kind of stay engaged, stay regulated. It was so valuable. I could see that being a great tool when we're
Mhm.
plane traveling or doing things like that. So yeah, yes is the
Absolutely.
answer.
Okay, there we go. All right. Des, Dawn, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm feeling a little emotional inside, but this was just so meaningful to do this. Des, thank you for reaching out about this topic. And I just want to say from the moms, the work that you guys are doing for your kids with sensory needs is wonderful. All the preparation work you've been putting into it and sending you all the love and kudos this Autism Awareness Month. You guys are amazing. You guys are the real Disney fairies and the real Disney heroes. Des, I cannot let you leave without playing a little final boarding call, some quick hit questions that we always ask to wrap up the episode. But I'm going to twist it this time, and I'm going to ask you some quick hit questions for kids with sensory needs. Let's
Okay.
start with best Disney World restaurant for kids with sensory needs.
I have a daytime answer and an evening answer, and they're really
Okay, go
tied
for it.
together. Okay. My daytime answer would be to go into the San Angel Inn, which is inside the Mexico Pavilion in Epcot. It's a Mexican table service restaurant that is inside the pyramid, and it is this dark lit. All you hear is nature. There's like string lights above it, and it turns the day into night. And that in itself reduces all of the bright lights all around. All of the heat is now air conditioning. And now you're just kind of immersed into this really quiet, kind of like calm thing. It's candlelit. It's just that has been the most like sensory regulating dining experience that we've had.
What's your nighttime answer?
For my nighttime answer, it would be to actually go towards Topolino's because it doesn't have a character dining experience. It's on a rooftop terrace and everyone books it for the breakfast. No one's really booking it as a dinner service, but it's this quiet, calm, you're above everything.
What Disney World resort should you avoid if your kid has sensory issues?
I would say that an all-star resort is going to be a challenge because of their vibrancy. They're the most vibrant, colorful, animated resorts of all with lots of different theming, and that can be good. Again, every child is different. For some, that is exactly what they want because they want to have the most amount of touch points available. For others, it's going to become really overwhelming. And so going into a resort that is quieter and more spread out is going to create a completely different experience.
So what Disney World resort would you recommend for kids with autism or sensory issues?
I love recommending a moderate resort like Port Orleans, whether French Quarter or Riverside. They're really spread out. They're much quieter resorts that have a lot more of that reprieve. If you want to take a boat ride to Disney Springs, you can do that. You want to walk across to the playground, the pool, everything is there for you. Caribbean Beach would be my next option. But I think then you mix in a few more elements because it's a really, 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 really big resort. So it would be
I
more building specific.
fully could see that. Is there a Disney World park that you should avoid if your kid has sensory issues? What park is not worth spending that admission price on?
I believe you can experience all of them if you
Okay.
really are intentional about it. I think the trick, I actually am very passionate about this answer, and I will stand on any soapbox to talk about it. I think it's a common misconception that you need to drop something because you're not going to enjoy it or it's not going to be worth the money. It is about building the strategy around it. And if I can
Okay.
leave with just a tiniest example of it that no one will think about, like I can guarantee nobody listening to this podcast has thought about this, is I talk about everything right down to which restrooms you are using. Using a companion restroom at Disney means a manual flush. And a manual flush can make or break the difference in a meltdown as
Also,
a
the
sensory
hand
child. Hand dryer versus having access to paper towels. All of those little details can be predicted. But not having those tools in place and winging it is what sets you up for that. Like, we want to do it all. We're only here once. We're never going to come back here again. Let's go all out. And then suddenly everything is falling apart. I will go out of my way to get you to spend less money if it means that you can visit more often, because
Wow.
I want you to pace yourself in a way that makes sense for you. That
Okay.
it's not the viral TikTok video telling you to do all the trending things, because if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it. I will stop you from building a marathon into your plans, and I will slow you down to stop and smell the roses, because that is what actually will bring the magic to your trip.
Absolutely. Wonderful. That's a wonderful note to end on. Des, Dawn, thank you so much. And thank you for all the wonderful insights you have brought to this conversation.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Produced by Kids Travel Tales. Kids Travel Tales podcast is independently produced and not affiliated with any company, organization, or product mentioned in this episode.